Somehow it's not popping up here. Okay. I guess that's what I had to do. Sorry, you guys. I'm learning this.
That's the training. Oh, no, you were here for
I was.
that.
I didn't go because I assumed those guys would handle it, so.
You know, we should always do. So practice pressing the buttons a couple times away if you. I did learn it once.
There's that.
Right.
But
And you are, what's your name on the Zoom?
yeah,
Jim. Not seeing you pop up on
no, I
here.
haven't signed in yet, so I'm waiting to get a
The link.
invitation.
Okay.
There's a link.
Sorry, everybody. I forgot you have to start it on the side panel before joining, so forgive me. I'm not sure why that's not on. That's probably,
Do we have an agenda online?
Yeah,
Yes.
Where is it?
it's in the Gloucester
Oh, it's
website.
not in our link, okay.
I notices.
On it.
Hi, Eric. I don't know if it's helpful to point out, but I can hear you and everything, so I think it's working just fine.
yeah, we just can't see it from
Oh, you're just trying to get the projector on. Okay, gotcha.
Then go. All the quick stuff.
Knew it was around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Stacked a bunch of stuff on top.
good. Zoom, that's what I want. There, oh my gosh, okay, sorry, folks.
We're getting that together.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Eric, are we on now and we're?
We are on, yeah,
public?
and
Okay,
I can share my screen and get the agenda up really quickly.
Okay.
And I'll invite Jim shortly here.
okay. Welcome to the Open Space and Recreation Committee meeting. Since we're in person, we don't have to do a roll call. We just note that we have 7 members in attendance, so we have a quorum. Is there anyone who is prepared to be in a rapporteur meeting?
I can if no one else wants to. I don't mind doing it.
You did it just last meeting
Yeah, but I don't mind.
and the meeting before. And the meeting before. Okay.
I helped it up. I don't
Okay.
like it. It's fine.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. We just open. Unless somebody else really wants to, I don't want to deny you.
How generous of you.
I'll let you get ready and roll on.
Yep.
Okay. So as I returned and I had my first communication with Eric, he told me that we had a new community development director in Gloucester, Alex Koppelman. Take this opportunity to meet him. So I believe he's joining us. There he is.
Hey,
Hi.
good. Hello there. Good to be with you virtually. I appreciate the flexibility. Just needed to get home, take care of my daughter this evening, but nonetheless, it's great to be with you. And would it be helpful to just tell you a little bit about my background?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. So I before taking this position was working with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council within the land use department as a project manager. So I worked on a whole host of different kinds of projects dealing with land use, open space and recreation planning. Housing was an area of focus for me, looking at housing planning and policy, as well as economic development activities. I was also the sub-regional coordinator for the Intercore Committee, which included 21 cities and towns in Greater Boston. So I've got experience with a lot of different communities throughout the region. Always just thought Gloucester was such a dynamic community, a place where there are, down-to-earth working class people and thought it would be a tremendous community to serve. So I'm just really happy to be in this position now. Been with the city for a little over a month, and really happy to get connected with you and see what you all are up to. But I don't know if you have any questions or things you want to talk about, but happy to do that.
Well, first off, thank you for joining us. And we, about 18 months ago, the Open Space Committee delivered a open space plan to the city. And it has a 7-year shelf life. And we don't want to just wait until it's our time to refresh that report. There's an echo in the room right now and it's throwing me off a little bit. Sorry. So in the meantime, as members, we're looking at emerging issues that the members of the city council or that the administration ask us to consider. But we're also looking at our own open space plan and asking ourselves, what in this plan is important to the committee members and what can we do to advance the cause within the city? As an advisory committee, we certainly don't have resources to implement the items, independent of the city, but what can we do to raise attention to the issues or the recommendations that are in our plan? And what can we do to urge council members to appropriate funds for them? What can we do to get the city departments to give them higher consideration and in their priorities? And so I'm hopeful that you will work with us and enjoy or rather take from us some of the open space recommendations and support our effort to advance them among the city departments. As you have a point of view and a perspective and influence that we don't possibly have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll just say that I think the success of our community and looking at how do we improve our parks and public space is really capacity is key for that. And to have a group of volunteers like yourselves monitoring the implementation of the OSRP, advocating and prioritizing those recommendations is really critical. So thank you for your focus and the time that you're spending on this. I know that Eric's been supporting you and you're in very good hands with him, but you'll also find that I am absolutely supportive of this effort as well. And my door is always open. So if we ever need to, think through some different things or some different opportunities arise, we want to capitalize on them. I'm always here to help move that forward and be your window into the mayor's office. And actually some of my colleagues at MAPC helped create that OSRP. So it's really nice to now be on the other end and be implementing it.
Great.
Just a simple question. What has your boss asked you to do? What is your mission, if you will? Specifically, I mean, what's on your agenda?
Yeah, right now, the community development department is really focused on the comprehensive planning process that will come out of that. And that's really going to help us look at the growth and development of the city over the next 10 to 15 years. I think it'll help us see how everything fits together between open space, recreation planning, and all the other things going on in the city. So that's a big focus right now. I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about the MBTA 3A housing initiative. We're coming right down to the finish line on that. There's going to be some public hearings moving forward with that. So not only is that really important to address the city's housing needs, but also protects our access to state funding and grants, which is really key for our park system and other upgrades that we want to be able to make in the future. So those two things are the top priorities right now. We also have the harbor plan, which is in the final stages of being finalized, and that help us move forward as well. But you know, we're looking at the comp plan, housing. We're looking at, in addition to that, some economic development initiatives. Before I'd come aboard, there was some work to build coordination and capacity in the downtown area, possibly through a business improvement district. So I'd like to bring that back to the forefront. So a lot of different areas that we're moving in, but I'd say the two big things right now are the comp plan and 3A.
Other questions for Alex? Well, we don't want to take any more of your time, but just want to thank you very much and congratulate you for the appointment, and we look forward to working for you and with you in the coming years.
Great, thank you so much. It's good to get introduced to you. I'm sure that we'll definitely be coordinating more, and you know, I know you're in really good hands with Eric here. So as opportunities come up, I'll definitely be back and look forward to working with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you again. Good night. Sign off and move on. So the next agenda item is the approval of minutes from the prior meeting, July 9th. Adrian sent those around today. Did folks have a chance to look at them?
I was unable to.
Can we post them?
I'm a little asked to see them too.
Or so were you unable to because you couldn't open
No,
the file or you just
I
didn't have
couldn't
time?
get home to my.
I'm sorry,
stuck
I
at
need to
work.
start. I was off the grid for a few days where I like didn't have access to even
Yeah, I
any
was
cell
away
phone
too,
service,
yeah.
which was nice.
Good.
But I know it was fun. However, I meant to do this last week and I was on vacation. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get these out.
Right.
I'll just do it immediately after.
Yeah,
open
yeah,
up,
it
and
won't
that
take
would be
long
more
just to.
helpful.
All right.
I think DM should have been DS because it wasn't a DM.
Where were we looking?
This one?
Well, it's TM, but where it's talking about what people stated.
Oh, TDM, I think we said, right?
That's, the D is missing, but.
Right.
Oh,
If
okay.
you go further down, where it says DM feasibility study, and I think I said that.
Yeah, you did. I just, like, I was looking
Right,
at
so-
you,
so
like,
the M
knowing, yeah.
Should be
yeah,
an
yeah,
S.
Yeah,
And that's throughout the thing because it wasn't a DM
sure.
on this one.
That's an easy fix.
So we don't have a motion to accept yet. Do we want to take a moment to review this since not everyone has seen it? And we'll do a paragraph at a time and make sure it's okay. But I do want to move this rather hastily.
All the DMs need to be DS.
On?
Yeah.
Ready to go on to the next page?
I think that's it. It was a short one. And I already changed that DM. Got them all.
Or has everyone feel like they've had a chance to look over the document?
Yeah, did we talk about moving the gate or adding a second gate? But if it's possible I thought that all of this time, we've been talking about adding a second one rather than moving it. I don't think in that
think we-
meeting, we changed our focus, did we?
I think we just said if they do the feasibility study with pickleball, they'll decide what the best plan is for that.
It could, right, where they, if pickleball becomes.
Yeah.
Project, and if it becomes in a certain area, it could impact where the gate goes.
But
But we don't know yet, because we only know half of the equation.
Right, we need to determine parking first, which will
Right.
address the gate issue.
but
Yeah,
what could a combined study for pickleball feasibility with a study if it's possible to add a second gate is I think what we were talking about at the time.
I don't remember a second gate, to be honest with you.
Well, that was the proposal from 2014. That's been the proposal all along.
No, it's a second gate?
Yes.
That was pre.
I thought it was just
I thought it
moving
was
the
moving
gate.
it.
I thought it was just moving it.
And removing it from the high.
Oh, well, okay,
That
well,
way you can
maybe
just drive in.
that wasn't in the proposal that was made back from the Magnolia Woods
But
people.
what's at issue at the moment is, does this correctly state that what transpired in the meeting? It's not,
Apparently,
not the
some
gate.
people thought that it was, and some people thought that it wasn't.
Yeah.
right? Is there a way to phrase this that satisfies what transpired in the meeting without reliving the issue?
I think this is what captured it. Oh, sorry. I should.
I think this is what captured it.
Well,
Yeah.
if we just say if it's possible to put a gate above the lower parking lot, that's really what we are talking about, right? That's what we're
Not
talking
if
about.
they need parking somewhere else for
Right.
pickleball though. So we have to determine what the needs are for pickleball before we can make any recommendations on where to put the gate. Because otherwise we'd have to remove the gate.
Right, we can't put something that wasn't discussed in a meeting.
I wasn't planning to. I thought.
No, no, yeah, no,
I misunderstood what we discussed.
Is there a way to express this perhaps more broadly, such that it covers what was possibly understood? So different perspectives in the meeting and still be correct.
Wondering
I
if we could
wasn't
do,
there.
which will address the placement of the gate. Wondering,
Or need for a second gate.
right, if you just,
Well, the question is whether we could cut into the liner. We were gonna ask them to do a study to whether we could do that, right?
right, but we're not discussing that, we're discussing this.
Well, I think, I do remember a bit of the conversation about whether, we had talked about how deep that gate thing had to go and whether the placement of the gate. You'd talk about that.
Yes,
Right, I
except at the
remember.
top though, isn't it?
The pickleball.
No.
No, like,
feasibility study
like-
Next step, would Mayor.
It came up like after talking about like fence posts having to go through the thing. Well, so that gate thing has to go through
Right, right.
the thing too. So we did talk, yeah.
So we had decided, I thought, that we wanted to ask for a feasibility study of what we could build near the liner that would cover both the gate and the
We did.
pickleball.
Right.
That's so
Yeah.
that was my understanding, that we were trying to combine those to some understanding
Okay.
of,
Can you
That was
propose a
on,
way
that was
to
the
phrase
prior,
it?
but that was the prior meeting. Parking lot built on cap.
Can we table this till the next meeting?
well, it's not that important. Let it go.
All right. Let's go, yeah. Let it go.
Okay. Right, so has everyone now had a chance to look over the document? All right, I would entertain a motion to accept this,
The
and once
changes.
that's there, if you want to make an adjustment to it, we can do that.
Make a motion that we accept this as amended.
I
Have to
Don't know.
recuse, right?
well, no, I don't know how it's been amended.
I changed his name.
No, I changed
Oh,
the name.
okay, the
That's
name
the
change.
initials.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, sorry, I was on the gate.
Yep, yep.
All right, thank you. Dave Sargent, is there a second?
Okay.
Is there any discussion? Accept this as amended with the change of Dave Sargent. Yes, instead of DM. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. That was easy.
I'm sorry.
All right, Eric, updates on membership staff support issues related to the processes of the OSRC.
Yes, still awaiting an alternate member. We have not filled it. There was somebody that was interested. I'm not sure what happened with that. It sort of goes through the mayor's office, but we haven't. So there is, still a vacancy. Alex came on, now, so he talked a little bit. So there are some changes in comm dev. There's been several people that have left, but we're onboarding some more folks. So other than that, I don't really have anything further to discuss.
Right, so at the moment, we are still short of one alternate member. And there is not a completed request to join your application.
No.
Okay. So please let folks know that need another member.
We did get, the person that did begin the application, I think saw it off of Facebook. So, you know, I'll bring that up again to put it on our page. We have an Instagram and a Facebook, and again in the Gloucester Daily Times because we put it in there.
Any questions for Eric on membership or department or division issues? Okay, update on Community Preservation Committee. Mark.
Thought we're not doing those anymore, but there are two applications that we're proposing to fund. Either one of them are on open space resources, so they're considered open space and recreation projects by the CPC category. One of them is Camp Spindrift, one of them is a library. One of those are the resources that we. So that's why, so, yeah, so I don't think that belongs, because of that, it doesn't belong here
Okay,
with the other.
all right. And is it for that reason that you said we weren't going to talk about this anymore?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there were no applications.
Okay.
And there was one, but when it dropped, there was one that would have involved the beach area, but.
Good Harbor Conservancy,
Yeah.
one that didn't
Pan
meet
out.
criteria. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been something we would talk about.
Thank you. Any questions for Mark? Okay, we'll move on to open space delineations, and we have a guest speaker tonight, Jim McDougall, and I'll turn it over to Chris to introduce him.
Okay, I'm just going to do a brief introduction. Jim, his credentials, he's a professional surveyor going back many years, working for the firm called Donahoe. Doing both field work and title work, all over, especially Essex County, I'm assuming. But
Yeah, pretty much all.
yeah, for 35 years or more, he's worked as a manager of conservation land for Mass Audubon, but more recently for the Essex County Greenbelt. And that, of course, requires, well, maybe not, of course, but in his case, requires doing title work to make sure to retrace legal boundaries for these properties, make sure everybody's on the right side of the fence, so to speak. He's the co-author of the 1985 Dogtown Ecological Report, a special reference to, I think, what he's going to be talking about tonight. And he's a member of the team. It was a member of the team that acquired the property along Dogtown Road in 1986. So, and I will just add personally, Jim and I have been friends and colleagues for probably more years than we care to remember, but it's another subject. But I worked all over the world, literally, with professional ecologists, environmentalists, naturalists, et cetera. And I would just say that Jim is in the top rank of those people. In addition, I think there is no one who knows Dogtown, both its ecology, its species. He's done amazing research on the species that occur in Dogtown, sort of comprehensively. And I would say from an ecological point of view, certainly a natural history point of view, knows Dogtown better than anybody that I can think of. So with that, I'll leave it to Jim to outline what he's going to cover tonight.
Thank you, Chris.
Pleasure.
Jim, where would you be most comfortable?
What I'm gonna do is, Eric kindly attached me, so I had a little PowerPoint. But my iPad is causing a little issue. So I am prepared with papers with the same program to go through that. And it actually, for this information, this is sort of a better approach. Some of the information I have is sensitive. All right, and it's simply put, and this is an open meeting. So this actually works out wonderful. So I'm going to hand out a map of Dogtown, including North Gloucester. I'm not going to deal with West Gloucester or any of that sort of stuff. This will be sort of in Dogtown, and Chris, you're not going to get one because I need one.
Okay.
to look at.
I have it all memorized.
Exactly.
So I'll share it.
If you could, pass the one over here, and I think I have enough for everyone.
Okay.
It'll probably come back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
There's
7,
5
8.
here.
There we go. All right, so, this, actually, thanks, Chris. I hope to learn a bird someday. But what you're looking at here is, sort of the assessor's map of, North Gloucester, Dogtown, and also Rockport is off to the right-hand side. You'll see a dotted line that runs up sort of through the middle. That is the boundary between Rockport and Gloucester. One point that you can, just to get you oriented, down on the left lower is a dark blue blob. That's Goose Cove Reservoir. And you can see some points, Dennison Street. And if you know Dogtown, Wales, John Peters Pulpit, Dogtown Common and whatnot. Now, on the right is a legend that sort of gives you an indication of the interest in the properties that are colored. Okay, so you have a light blue, which would be a watershed properties. A lighter blue than that was a tax taking. Somewhere in the 60s, Gloucester took they foreclosed on a lot of land and took it for taxes. Back tax title, okay? So those are isolated out. There's one that's sort of a light purple. That the city just acquired them, as if you bought your lot. And so the reason I made distinctions here is the city may have different requirements in the ownership. For example, the watershed ownership has laws that apply to protecting a watershed, and therefore it has certain protections. There's I think we would call it the lightest of the greens down near Dogtown Common at the bottom. Those would be owned by the Conservation Commission. Those were acquired in '86 with state monies that gave stewardship to the Gloucester Conservation Commission. So those have their own set of rules and protections. And that would come under, I think you call it, is it Article 97? I don't know if people know all this sort of stuff, but all of these, the watershed comes under Article 97, the Conscom comes under Article 97. So if you want to change the use of that property, you actually need a vote in the city to be approved by the General Court of Massachusetts. Okay, I'm getting positive head shakes, so I'm actually saying something that might be correct. So there's sort of a moss green big blob in the middle of it. That is the New England Forestry Foundation. That's off of the end of Revere Street, Professor Norton's farm. And what I wanted to bring to your attention are the red ones that are sort of on the upper portion of the map that we have here. And you can take a look. We could share it like this.
Okay.
So when I was asked about 10 years ago, actually, we met with the assessor. I don't know if it was the treasurer or the assessor. Guy by the name of Tim. That's all I can remember.
Assessors.
Assessors.
Yeah.
And they had this part of this red zone, the parts in Rockport, parts in Gloucester. They have some lots where they don't know who owns it. It's owner unknown. It is not taxed. Okay. And I said, well, I'll take a stab at it. And of course, Understanding the title exam, oh, and I want to make one correction. I'm not a professional licensed, land surveyor. I worked with a land surveyor and I did all of his title work. So for the public, I don't want to get any land surveyors jumping down my throat here. So I was asked to sort of look at these owner unknowns, you know, can you kind of figure them out and that sort of thing? And I said, oh yeah, no problem. I've been doing that. It's a piece of cake. Well, it's not a piece of cake. When you do a title exam, if I did a title exam of your house lot, I could start somewhere with you and your deed. And then I could follow the next deed, you know, who you bought from and and that's sort of the chain of title. When someone hands you a piece of a map like this with red things on it, and they said, we don't know anything about this land. You have no place to start. None whatsoever. And you're kind of like going, oh, okay. So I went back to, it turns out a lot of this land is on the road between Squam and Pigeon Cove or something. There's a road that runs through and a lot of the title goes to that. Well, a lot of that was owned by a Mr. Dennison. He was the first one to own that land, Dennison Street. I can't remember his first name, maybe David Dennison or something like that. But anyway, so I had to start somewhere. And I thought, well, I'll start at the beginning. So I went to Mr. Dennison. Well, you know, Mr. Dennison had 6 or 8 sons named David Dennison. And they had sons named David Dennison. And then it gets into probate and it's hard to follow deeds when the land is passed through inheritance. Then you get into probate. That's a different kettle of fish. Okay. If someone paid me, I might want to spend some, a couple of years of my time to actually follow that chain of title to the present. Instead, what I did is I went through all the records of surveys in this area. And I started finding surveys. Also, there's a lot of records that I couldn't find that, like the Rockport Granite Company, they went bankrupt and all their records went somewhere. Where they went, who knows? They may be up, there's a museum up in Rockport, I think in Pigeon Cove or something, or up that way. They're probably in those archives. I didn't find them at all in the archives of Gloucester. Okay, there was a great map in the archives in the Gloucester City Hall of 1722 of the Commons. And that helped also start a lot of these red, on both sides of the line, Rockport and in Gloucester, were common lands. If you look south along that line and you see a bunch of parallel lots, those were all the common lots that were transferred in 1722. Okay, and those are brought forward. So that information there is pretty good because a lot of the deeds will say, according to lot 112. Well, that's of the common lands of 1722. So we use that information. Then I found some surveys up in the red zone. Actually, the northern part, this you can see, I made the print kind of small, but there's some names that are stuck in some of those common lots, those sort of parallel lots. I found surveys of those lots and it gave me who the owner was at a particular time, 1870 or that sort of thing. And that's where I kind of patched together these names in that red zone, which is currently, from the city of Gloucester's perspective, owner unknown. People have not been taxed on it. So the city has to, has a difficult choice to make if they want to acquire these lands. And I did this for the benefit of open space. I did not do this for the benefit of it being put into subdivisions. Okay. And I would feel bad. It would make me sad if it were used for that purpose. My heart is with open space and Dogtown. I put together what I think probably is the best information of who knows what, who owned those lots at the last time. So I would expect all of these lots are probably in someone's will. Hence, it would be in probate. And where they have not been taxed, you can't take them for taxes. Back taxes or non-payment of taxes. I don't know, and since I don't think anyone's put a value on it, there's also a mechanism to take lots like this for low value. If you go online to the state of Massachusetts, is a chapter on how a municipality can take properties for low value, which would be the simplest way to acquire this sort of thing. You need a lawyer. You need a legal mind that can says, or I would go to that department in the state of Massachusetts and saying, okay, what qualifies for land of low value and what does not? And I think that I think is step number one. And then you can say, well, we've got these owner unknown currently, but we have an indication of who might own them. And at this point in time, each of those lots could be owned by 50 different people, and they don't know it. You know, they inherited it. You know, they inherited this person's estate and then went to that, and then in like 5 or 6 generations, it's just, you know, it's a bunch of people. So the reason I'm here tonight is because, well, actually, I finished up this work in 2019. So it's taken me a couple of days to catch up of 5 years of not even looking at this information. But what I did is I put together a list of these red lots with some of the last information. And this is for, I'll give it with the chair. But I also have a bunch of other information that is even more sensitive. And I'm glad to share it with the city of Gloucester if it's in the pursuit of conserving open space. I've brought, since I know the people at Greenbelt and they've been doing work out in North Gloucester, I'm also willing to share information with them, since I work for them. That was 25 years ago, but I mean, they're a good vehicle in order to work with private landowners in some mechanism. You know, this is tough stuff to do for a municipality. There's a lot of legal work here.
That's, sorry to interrupt, but that's why it's taken since.
Well, and I failed to mention, I'm following in the footsteps. There was a report done by North Gloucester report of some nature. And also Mr. Crowley also summarized all this information. I've taken his information and made some corrections. But, you know, I'm following in their footsteps. They really did some wonderful work. And they deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But I want to dump this information, let you people know, the city know, that someone has acquired a lot of information. It's available to the city. And my wife is here in case I pass away. And you can just call her up.
Not tonight, please, Jim.
No, not tonight, but one never knows. We had a secretary in one of my offices that always says, well, if I get hit by a bus today, you know, this is where, you know, your paycheck is, you know, so we always knew where our paycheck was. But the same with this is I'm just sort of trying to get stuff out of my computer and out into the light of day. So that someone doesn't waste the same amount of time, you know, because this represents essentially, it's a lot of work, probably 4 years, and I spent a lot of time on it, and it was more serendipitous than anything to bump into. Matter of fact, there's a survey of 3 or 4 of these lots, and the names looked good on it. You know, but this person, Frank and Joe on this side, and then the east and the west and whatnot. but there was something wrong with it. It was sort of like upside down. Well, the person who did the map put an arrow on it, right? Not paying attention, and that was to south. And you just go, oh, there, now it fits. It just, you know, these little things, he just put an S on there, and you always assume an arrow is with an N. And, you know, it's kind of like, oh, no, this fits perfect, and it did, it fits perfectly, it takes up quite a bit of the red space. But also, there's a couple other lots in there that people in Rockport own the land in Gloucester, and Gloucester does not recognize it. And there are surveys to that.
Gloucester does not recognize the ownership.
Gloucester does not recognize their ownership
Of their portion of it.
of their portion that's in Gloucester that came across the line. And the reason, and that's understandable, Gloucester and Rockport changed the town line. This line, that dotted line, as you can see from the bottom of the page, it goes up straight, and then it hits the red part and it does a little bend. That's relatively new. I mean, that bend was probably done in 1722, when this was all laid out as common lands, but it used to go straight. So that's why what's called a gore it sort of exists. So if there was something in Rockport that went to the Gloucester line before 1722, it would extend now into Gloucester. And a lot of these go along, Gallup Bishop's Folly or whatever, Gallup Bishop's Folly, I think is the name of the brook that runs up to Folly Cove. So a lot of them go to that stream, which was considered the boundary between Gloucester and Rockport, pre-1720. So you have all these sort of mix-ups that kind of confound how this is acquired. So that's my best fit. It's yours to conserve, and I hope you have good luck with it. So, and I'm available if you need more detailed information, if someone wants more detailed information. I'm happy to, I have a database with all the deeds and whatnot and for each of these lots. So.
First off, thank you very much for speaking with us tonight and for the work that you've done and for sharing it and putting it out there, getting it off your computer and out of your brain, and hopefully for some action here. Just to be clear, this list that you've provided here, it lists some owners, but it doesn't indicate dates. So these may have been the last known owners, but they could be all in different decades or even different
That's correct.
centuries. Okay.
That's correct.
So these weren't contemporaries of one another. It's no, okay.
No. Matter of fact, I heard the name Sargent here. Is there a gentleman by the name of Sargent?
Yep,
You might own a piece of land out there, you know.
I'm related to those people.
Guess what? You might own it.
You can have it.
Send them the tax bill.
And it's actually a beautiful piece of land.
Right, I know.
And it really, it's one of the key red spots on that map that should be added to Dogtown as a piece of conservation, because it's one of the big red spots on the north edge of what's already protected.
Where do I sign?
Yeah.
So you have,
Green Belt.
you have given extraordinary professional attention to this, and you were introduced as someone who was expert in this field. If you can't track these down and, you know, their current ownership down, how are these at risk? I mean, is there a possibility of a title transfer and a sale if there is none of the evidence that, you know?
Absolutely. There,
Okay.
to give you a case in point, on that map, within the red and green, there's a big white square. Okay, that's it. You got it. The big white square.
Yeah.
Someone said, here's $100,000, do the title on this land and see if you can find it to a surveyor. They found it. That's privately owned. Was it 25 acres, something like that? 25 acres right in the middle of beautiful, it's a beautiful piece of land. Those people now live down in Florida. And they're paying taxes on it and it's been surveyed. So yes, someone like me, I mean, if I didn't have an open space
There's no way to get
focus,
back, I mean,
Bias.
there's no, because it's not taxable, there's no way to say, you've owned this land, you owe us these
if
taxes.
they show up with a deed, they own it.
There are title attorneys who follow these things back. There's a major development that's now complete in West Gloucester that fell under that. Who knows what the ownership was? They paid mega bucks and they were able to finally figure out all the little pieces and then successfully buy that. And now there's a major development in West Gloucester as a result of that. So if there's enough money, you can actually follow it all the way back. But it's a lot of work. But if somebody's foot in the bill, somebody's willing to do the work.
Other questions for Mr.
A
Madhuko?
quick one, by sensitive, you mean people's information? You said there was a lot of sensitive information here. Were you talking about private, like people's names and things?
Yeah, anytime you're dealing with land ownership, it's sensitive.
Okay. I just wanted to know what that-
Particularly, I think, if there are dueling interests in the world. And I'm before the Open Space and Recreation Committee right now, but there's another group of people out there who are, is there unknown land out there?
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't necessarily want to throw this up on the screen.
The second question, I know you said this was up to 2019.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize it was 5 years ago when I stopped doing this, but it was about.
So, So we updated the open space and rec plan. Wasn't there some, is this any different than what the open space inventory thinks of today? Because it was updated, what was it, 2021? 2020, 2021?
But the inventory, probably later, 22.
Yeah, remember Adrian, right? And so does this match what the city thinks today, I guess?
I haven't reviewed that, so I can't tell that. I did add,
That's all on our Google Drive. We have all the latest.
I did notice that they did add a city lot that was taken for taxes. It's right under the name of Sarah Lane. There's a light blue rectangle. See, that was recently, even though it was taken for taxes in 1965, it did not show up on the assessor's records until recently. I didn't see it in the 2019 assessors is what I was using. Yes.
A couple questions. First one would be, what sort of assurances and who would make them to you would convince you that this was for sure going to be open space and would allow you to feel comfortable giving us any more information that you maybe haven't already?
I have faith.
Okay.
That's the extent of, I don't need an assurance. I'm willing to help you.
Okay, well, the other question is this information you're digging out of the past and the nebulous world, does that make it more likely that someone could do that sort of shenanigan of paying someone to get in there and take it away?
There's always that chance.
I think one of the reasons, if I may, and jump in and correct me, Jim, but one of the reasons that he's hesitated to go public with this, and I've talked to him about it for years, kind of thing, and I believe it's legitimate, is that there, as you can see on this map, there are a lot of interests here. Some of them are, we have no idea who they were, and it's undivided interests and things like that. But the city owns a lot of land here, and the city can deal with these different pieces of land in different ways. It's like, it's a conservation commission, so that's untouchable. That's just open space for all the birds and the bees and stuff. Necessarily. Some of the cases, if the city decided, the tides are coming in, businesses need to move, housing needs to move, and where's the best closest upland available in the city? Right here, in what I regard as the most valuable, from an ecological point of view, the most valuable 3,000 plus acres, not just on Cape Ann, not just in Essex County, but in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The number of endangered species in this area, and Jim knows this only so well because he does amazing work cataloging that. This needs to be preserved. And my view would be that, you know, if we could make all these colors one in one sense, through ownership of whether it's Greenbelt or whomever, or some kind of guarantee that says this will be protected. This incredible valuable open space is not fully protected. And the city could say, oh, you know what? We really need some, you know, things. So we're gonna, you know, take this and we're gonna take it out of this category, put it in that category and develop it. And I think, you know, there was some, if I can speak for you, that there was some hesitancy in saying, you know, talking too much about that, lest somebody, you know, gets the wrong idea, says, oh, look at the opportunities we've got here to do X, Y, and Z. So is that fair?
No, that's absolutely fair, and it's an interesting, when you're dealing with land, I'll just say it again, it's a sensitive topic. You know what I mean? The city of Gloucester wishes to preserve one of the nicest natural places. I will go North America. I mean, this place is special, you know, from an ecological perspective. Then they have to make that choice. The city of Lynn, for example, just put a conservation restriction on Lynn Woods. It took a couple of people about 30 years to convince, because the city kept saying, but you know, that's a great place for our vocational school. Oh, that's a wonderful place for our new high school. We could combine our high schools and we could just take over that, or this be a great place, you know, but there are other needs for municipalities. And one should elevate the need to protect something as rare as Dogtown to the need for a high school or a compost pile or whatever it may be. For example, to give you, it's interesting. It's just a mindset, the way people think about open space is that it's cheap. When the North Gloucester sewer went in, the city took a piece of Greenbelt property because it was considered cheap. When across the street, which was a better location, the lot was for sale. And guess what? Under eminent domain taking, they had to pay the same price as they would have across the street. But the engineering firm said, well, that's conservation land, that's cheaper. So, you know, you're dealing with sort of that in your business of trying to, you know, balance open space and recreation concerns for the city. And what I'm recommending is, and I think there's others that saying, you know, this should be probably added to the Dogtown open space, you know, for the next pandemic, to give people more places to walk around, or certainly not fewer. So
as far as immediate actions that this committee contemplate, I understood you to recommend pursuing a definition of what describes a low value property.
exactly.
And armed with that information, could look at these properties and determine if they qualify, and that may then there's a process for potential taking. Short of that, if they are not low value properties, I imagine it goes to the deeper title search and the exhaustive title search that has to somehow either come up with an owner or owners and find this broadly dispersed ownership that you were describing, probate, or come to some kind of definitive end.
Or eminent domain.
Okay.
You know, which is always kind of a nasty term, sort of a thing. And I think, you know, that's sort of your down the road type of thing. But you may want to use that to clear the title. That's what happened with Doris Tasker, the 1986 acquisitions, those light green parcels down by Dogtown along Downtown Road, even though they were purchased from the von Rosenvin family. And they got, you know, a fair price for their land. The city also took it by eminent domain just to clear the title, so that someone couldn't come back like me and saying, oh, by the way, I did the title exam and I own 5 acres in the middle of the Babson boulders. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So that just sort of wipes the slate clean for the city in the future. So, and I'm also strongly recommending that anything that you do it with legal advice, because these are legal matters. I'm not a lawyer, and, you know, I did this title work, and I'm offering you recommendations as Jim McDougall. Okay, that's it. There should be, if you can get someone, I mean, John Cunningham did the work in 1986. I don't know if he got paid or if he gave the city a pretty good deal on it. There may be another lawyer in town who can just sort of give you a hint of, well, this is how this works and this is how this works, and you can't go down that road, and whatever it may be. So, and I'm sure that there's a city council. The city of Boston must have a lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Legal counsel, yeah.
Yeah. But they're billable. So I try to find maybe someone else.
What's MAS stand for on the legend?
Mass Audubon Society.
Mass Audubon Society, and they are actually up off the top of the page, so they don't
Tiny
show.
feet.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of clipped this just for this discussion.
I believe that in our open space plan, when we were talking about this, there were areas where there were grants and things where we could apply for money or title searches and to look at that. And if we have a subcommittee that's set up to look at Dogtown, I think having Jim as being one of the members will work famously.
I'll help you in any way I can. Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you're sticking around for a little bit, we're going to talk and we may have further questions for you. But if you need to run, we can send them to you on a letter or email.
Yeah, send me an email. Chris has my email.
Okay.
I think we're gonna duck out.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking with us and sharing your expertise and
Okay.
these particular
Well,
details.
good luck.
All right, thank you.
We'll see ya. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Jim.
See ya.
See you soon.
Bye, Chris.
I'm going to take this item, open space delineations. We have past surveys of Dogtown. We Bulls Hill update next, but I'd like to entertain some discussion about this station first before we mention Bulls Hill. What are your thoughts? And I'm looking for guidance on, or ideas from what the community would like to do. We have this as a prime example of open space that could be conserved and consolidated. But we have others and as well. And so it seems to be the place to start, but mindful of application of those methods to other spaces in town downstream.
Well, I think the place to start is Bulls Hill, because that's very simple. It's low hanging fruit. And I brought it up, last time to Eric. And Greg responded by saying that even though the property that was purchased, from Imes for Symes, when Bulls Hill was purchased, there are contiguous parcels, and I looked them up, that extend down to the Annisquam River. And he wants to do a perimeter deed for all of these, including the contiguous parcels. And that's what is holding that up. But once we get that done, that could be a template for what we're using for Dogtown. And Dogtown would seem to be the next one in the queue, before we look at other ones, because I think it's more at risk, you know, quite frankly.
Paul's Hill is more risk.
I don't know. I think Dogtown's more at risk,
Definitely.
right?
All right.
But Post Hill is a low hanging fruit. And if we can get the template for that and then see if we can apply that to Dogtown, I think we're better off. And from what I'm led to believe, the template from Post Hill is right around the corner, within the next month or so.
Shall we take, well, then shall we take that, get that Paul's Hill update and, you know, make sure we're all on that page?
We can discuss that agenda item now, or should we
Sure.
stay with the discussion?
No,
at hand?
let's hear that.
Yeah,
since-
with Poles Hill, so I actually don't know when it's rounding the bend here to completion, but, and I sort of wanted to share my screen with the, because I wanted to do it this whole time with, what, Jim was sharing, but, where it's Poles Hill. So, also, I discovered on the Gloucester Historical Commission site, they have a whole thing about Poles Hill and how, you know, there's like a huge, like, opposition to the subdivision, and
Right.
it's really fascinating stuff. You were in it.
I was part of it, yeah.
So, you know, sorry, this isn't the best, so like, this is like the Poles Hill most people have in their minds, right? But there are parcels that go here, you can see, you know, that's the ownership here, City of Gloucester. It kind of like comes
Right, and then they
in
go
this
down.
line, it keeps going down,
Right.
and this is what's kind of like, pulling it up, and where is I kind of don't wanna.
The one where it shows it going to the river,
Yeah,
that's
This one.
city owned, right?
yeah, here.
Right.
If you go in yeah, there it is.
Right.
And
And
there's,
that connects contiguously to the others that are going up like dominoes.
yeah, so it goes up like here, oops, sorry.
Right.
So it surrounds the.
Yeah, so it goes around Squam Lane. But that's kind of why it's, you know,
Right. Because there are other ones that he's including
Right.
rather than, just the Bulls Hill.
If, I just want to get the satellite here. This part is interesting. I think there's like, this is like a road here. Let me get off of the yellow.
It's a path down
The
and
path
people have
down.
been using it as a neighborhood ending for quite a while.
Right. So anyway, he's our surveyor, Kirk Benson. This came from like ARPA money to fund this, so we don't want to have another pandemic and rescue plan to fund, you need to find like a sustainable source of money, but,
Is that a dock like that?
this part,
That going out there?
That's
Is it a stone wall?
a walkway.
It's a walkway, it's like a
Right.
boardwalk.
Yeah.
Is
that's a
that on
ramp.
private or is that
That's
Gloucester?
private.
That's on private.
so this is City of Gloucester here, and
Right.
then there's a public way, and it goes into here, so like, maybe that might be hanging it up, I don't know, it gets tougher, and then you're researching, I don't know, it's.
Right.
It may be rounding the bend, but I hope within a month, I'm not sure, but I think I've said that at past meetings, that's coming in a month, because we did see a plan at one point. And then also, I'm not sure, if this is the Greenbelt property, they own this little up there. So we would be consolidating around that, and then I'm not sure if what happens with Greenbelt, but he would, either Kirk or Greg or one of us would present this consolidation to you guys, the Open Space Committee. If you want to support it, that's what we would seek out. And I do think it's, like I've said, this is a good, like, kind of springboard into dog pound, et cetera.
So what, is there a particular sticking point here, or, I mean, we're talking about this like,
For a long, it's just the water area. I'm not sure if it's like property.
what's that?
The lots that were part of Polls Hill, but the contiguous ones, particularly the ones that are by Innisquam River. A
Yeah,
lot of those deeds way back when said to mean high water and other ones said to mean low water. And sometimes they get changed as title gets passed from.
Right. So is the
person to
city waiting to resolve those? Is
Yeah.
that why the,
Right.
because that could be
I know.
Right.
taking.
Well, Greg's email said, I'm hoping to arrive at this for the end of the summer. So, he'll provide another update
Yeah.
upon receipt of the draft plan. Procedurally perimeter deeds may be recorded without planning board action, but we will be sure to present to the OSRC, Concom Planning Board, and the council anyway. So
But what
we
does
will have
draft-
review.
What does draft plan mean in that sentence? Is that just the results from the surveyor, or are those results going to go into a city drafted plan?
Oh, no, it's just the survey.
Just the
And it
survey.
wouldn't even, I remember I mean, if the plan, he's saying no, I have to talk to him again, but usually the planning board would, you combine lots and then they sign off on it and then you record it at the registry of deeds. So this would become like a protected open space. Or at least it'd be consolidated, and then I think there's an additional step for it to be.
It's easier to manage it if you're dealing with the contiguous parcels to, if you have all these little pieces, as Jim brought up.
Yeah.
And it's really gonna be very difficult to manage them independently. So it makes some sense to have a
Try to get it
perimeter
all.
deed around contiguous properties that the city does own.
Are any of the properties you're waiting on, are they unknown the way like these red are?
No, they're all
No, so we
within the
do
city,
at
but
least
there's-
know who to, yeah.
The
Okay.
extent of what we own as a city is the issue
Okay.
along the water.
Because that does
Particularly along the
complicate
water.
this more. I feel like this is such a can of worms, right? When you start telling people they own land and also we're taking it, like, not that that's very, simplified,
Yeah.
but I mean, if they know they own it, they do have the right to potentially develop it, or I don't know
Right,
how
but
that works.
here the issue is, where the oak tree was,
Right,
right, where the granite marker
Right.
was.
yes,
Because that's what the old deeds
say,
said.
yep.
And particularly when you're dealing with marshland, it can be really
Especially
problematic.
now. Because they're getting washed away.
So
Yeah, yes.
this issue, the city is actively working on it.
Yeah.
And Greg suggested it would be resolved by the end of summer, so there's 4 more weeks. And
Yes.
so we have no role in this, right? It's kind of beyond the role of this committee. It's responding to one of our recommendations, but we don't have a role in the resolution of these issues around the waterfront properties. So I guess our action here would be to ask Greg for an update at our next meeting.
I guess so, yeah. And if we do have, if anything change, I will, BCC you guys, the blind carbon copy and let you, we'll probably have it on the agenda if we do have a final plan. I think, and
But
then,
asking for an update, I think is great.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need a motion for that. We just want to ask Greg for an update at our next meeting, which
Yeah.
should be the last Tuesday of
yeah,
September.
yeah, motion for that.
So we'll mind you of
Okay.
that. And, right, but getting back to, is there any more on Polls Hill? So I don't see anything that would preclude us from also talking about Dogtown and what we heard tonight. And as I understood the question that Jim McDougall, or the point that Jim McDougall was recommending to us, was to contact the Commonwealth Office on these land issues about how these properties would relate to the low value question. And I'm stating that kind of from a state of ignorance. I don't really don't know the terms of art here to
I
really
think-
express them well.
I have no idea what that is, and I think we need to do some research and see what that entails, maybe make some phone calls.
Yeah. I guess Jim left and it's dawned on me that you must know the answer.
Well,
Or is the low value question, we want to, is it a matter of policy or some kind of legal approach to properties that you take regarding values and their, or is it a dollar amount? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Could we do a search right now to- just to
well,
see?
maybe you off. We don't want to be here for 3 or 4 hours, so.
Well, I wasn't proposing that, I just thought,
Is there any way that we can pursue that question, Eric?
Yeah,
How best?
I mean, Noelle Mann knew all about that. She presented some documents to me before she left. I think it rests with like the treasurer's office. I don't think it's even an assessor issue, because it would be a tax taking or a title taking, but it is. I forget what the program, there's like self-help grants that you can get from the state to facilitate this.
Well, if Noel could answer the question.
I think she would.
I'm in
She would answer.
frequent contact with her, so.
Yeah,
if
she
you
would
can
be able to
articulate
give you-
The exact question.
I have something here. In
I know.
Massachusetts, the Commissioner of Revenue determines the maximum valuation of parcels that qualify for the land of low value foreclosure procedure each year. This procedure is an alternative to the lengthy, expensive, and complex foreclosure process that typically occurs when a parcel of land goes unpaid for. I'm sure we can find out quite a bit online.
There's a whole thing right on mass.gov about land of low value applications and how to go about doing it and who to contact. Local finance law questions, local officials only. So there is a little research needs to be done, but it looks like applying for low land value affidavits, it's all on the Massachusetts site.
So this is for the city officials to undertake with.
It says local officials only,
Okay.
yeah.
So, Eric, how does that work? And, would it be planning? Would it be another?
I don't believe so, because it's, it's with the assessor and the treasurer. I would think I can follow up with Greg about that. I think another issue is just, I do wanna, you spoke on something about like the parcels that were identified. The open space parcels, through the open space plan, we actually have that gigantic list.
Yeah, the
And-
inventory.
and there is a way to. We don't have that on like our city GIS. I think it'd be really good if we had like what we have, if I can just share really quick.
And my point was trying to sync up 2019 Jim.
Right, with what we have
with
now.
Your plan,
Yeah,
and it may be that his information is better than what we have and vice versa.
because if
Just sort
you,
of syncing that up, just
right,
in the interest of accuracy,
Because
latest information.
because this is very interesting.
Right.
So this red thing up here, sorry,
Go ahead.
I should stay with that topic. I think it's a treasurer assessor.
It says the
Question.
treasurer and assessor jointly complete a parcel information
Yeah.
record for each parcel online.
So,
But then to come back to this, because when you look at this, I can't click on. Here we have Essex County Greenbelt, which is in red on his, so somehow,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know when that happened in 2022, so that was a change.
For $1.
No.
No, I
that
know the
was-
one before.
The other one, I know. And this is all publicly available, right? Oops, I didn't want to do that.
Eric,
But then,
in our list, what would that show up?
and lastly, the other part of the red is this, and it doesn't, I can't highlight it. It just goes to the, 0 acres and goes to the city of Gloucester, but I'm not quite sure.
And that is
what
the one here,
happened
that's
there.
this name here.
So there's no, I think it's not highlighted because there's an issue, but it's not, oops. Anyway, so, I mean, I guess my point is saying that things have changed from this map and there has, but he is correct that there are, like, when you get down to these guys, I mean, you can see that, I mean, there's just, you know, some of it's city owned, some of it's,
The way that's divided
the
is
compound
just so
is
crazy.
kinda
to look at.
So they're wood lots, I
We've
guess.
Yeah.
We've had two
Good luck, yeah.
questions raised, and Eric, I don't know how to answer them, and so maybe the question should be, how do we advance our understanding and, city's engagement, with, the Commonwealth regarding the low value, a land of low value applications?
Mhm.
And, if this is something that we could hear before the next meeting, that would be great, and we could discuss it, or at least by the next meeting, having an answer of whether there is a, what the process is and whether there's any way to move it into the priorities of, I guess, it was the assessor and the treasurer. And, what this committee could do to, draw attention to that and to, get it going. So I'll pause there. Any thoughts?
I think if we're gonna put this additional burden on them, we have to find some, like a grant or something, so that they could get the money for this, or an intern or something, because, you know, we can have a big wish list, but if we are asking existing city departments to do things, you know, outside, you know, what they're already planned to, they're not gonna have time for that.
Well, our first question is how? And so that, I don't disagree with you and trying to find, support for them. Just, is it the right place? Is it done? Is it, you know, what would the timeline be under their current resources? Those sorts of things. And then maybe,
Well, I don't know any city department that has additional resources and free time.
but they must have time to answer a question. How is this done? And I'm not saying do it. We need information so that we can engage the city and advance this by whatever means necessary.
Right.
Right now, we just don't know. We need to read this webpage and we need to see if the treasurer and the assessor
They can
have
tell us our
experience with
needs
it.
and then we can go back with how to
You
meet
know,
their needs.
or this is a dead end, or yes, this is a breeze, or.
So it's this, sorry, it's the state assessor and. they were
No, the
talking about
city assessor and the city treasurer would have to jointly file with the state,
State, okay.
and they'd have to file for specific areas.
No one
of
else can do it but them.
What it says,
Okay.
city officials only.
And if it would help to have a letter from the committee asking these questions, we could do that. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, that would show, you know, I mean, it's a recommendation of the open space plan and, I mean, you're asking about the process. It's a priority. I think a letter helps and it may even go into the application of the state. I'm not sure that this is, you know, this goal in the open space plan. I forget which section that is, like section 7, I believe. It wouldn't hurt. And I think it would go into some, I'm not sure if it's supporting documentation or if the state even asked for it, but it does lend some heft, you know?
Before embarking on a letter writing, is this something that you'd like to check with Alex or Greg and
Yeah, I could definitely do that.
give us a process note, how best to communicate within the city and make such a request?
Mhm.
And
You just, for the notes, Alex and Greg, can you tell me? Sorry, I don't know their last names. Alex.
Alex Koppelman, Koppelman.
Yeah, Alex, sure.
And just say Greg. It's Katamortori. I don't know how to spell it.
Oh, all right.
off the
I
top
just
of
want
my
to make sure.
head.
I could,
It's a double G,
Yeah.
correct. too.
okay.
Greg.
Greg, if we, as long as we know. it'll be-
CADEMA.
CAD,
Tori.
It'll come up.
Yeah.
I'll find it. It's all right. I can go back and alter that. I just wanted to start somewhere.
You mentioned risk, or some of these things are at risk, right? How can we define
Greg can hear you.
what the risk is a little bit, maybe to bracket. So someone say, you know, why are you asking us to do this? The low value, if we framed it around what is some of the risks that, you know, is at risk for
For
what?
someone developing some green space that we want to keep green.
Or is, so it'd be risk of development then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so it's the development risk. I didn't know if it was being used in some other way that
That's the
the main
basic.
risk is development, okay.
Yes. Yeah, commercial, residential, yeah.
I think there's also a risk, and I think that you and Jim brought it up, is because there's ecological risk as well.
Yes, right. I mean, one of the ecological risks, and this goes to something I brought up at the last meeting, but Dogtown, you know, people say who have no ecological background, they say, oh, well, Dogtown, you know, they think it's just this open space and whatever, and we just let nature take its course and whatever. That's not the case. Land as valuable as this with globally, you know, rare species, and it needs to be managed for those species. And we are losing some of those species because they have not been properly managed from an ecological point of view. And I can give you examples, but, and so that's, you're quite right. There's ecological risk as well. Dogtown doesn't just stay, you know, this amazing place just all by itself. It is the way it is because it has been managed, not deliberately ecologically, but it's been managed as farmland, it's been managed as forest land, it's been managed as a variety of things. That happens to have played out ecologically as the diversity that we find in Dogtown. It's now losing that. And so that's, you're totally right, that's another risk. One of the things we brought up a while back is that when I know Cindy Dunn came when the Dogtown Preservation Commission was dissolved and gave you a briefing, a couple of briefings, I think. I'm not sure, Eric sent me one of the minutes, but I'm not sure she gave you or that you're aware that going back, starting with what Jim was talking about in the 1985 Dogtown planning, I was involved, well after that, there have been revisions. So there is now a plan, so to speak, that has been revised many times and looked at recently of 50 pages or more, talking about the history of all that and recommendations for where things are going forward. I'm not sure you have that in your archives, and it has a bibliography and who's been involved in the history of it and all that. So I want to make sure that the committee
I
has
believe
that.
that at last meeting, we wanted that to be where we could get to it, and we committed to read it if it got there.
Right, well, I can,
Yeah,
We have a folder for the,
But
some of the
did it-
stuff. Cindy
None
sent
of it is the
Sorry, no,
Dogtown Preservation that is
Didn't get
empty
there.
right now.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, maybe Cindy did forward that, I don't know, but if you have a 50+ page document that talks about a recent one, then that's it.
All right, Brett,
Can we, we're just wrapping this conversation up. I want to make sure we're getting the appropriate action items out there. And I think I've mentioned wiring with the trade, or Eric wiring with leadership about how best to ask for the treasurer and the assessor to advise us on this topic. What can we do as a committee to advance it? That's one item. The other the other was to somehow compare the open space plan and the inventory that's in the open space plan with what Jim McDougall has here. Wondering is wants to take up that task.
Well, Jim, would be a matter of just providing him with, like, Jim would have to, I don't think a third party would like look at the two and compare. I mean, I think do we give him that information, arm him with that information and give him all of Noel's stack of paper that she left? Or something. I mean, just, I don't know how to, somebody has it, right? I don't know how to. Right, I don't know if a third person just let I think he admitted that it was
So
twenty
Jim offered
nineteen.
to help.
Right.
And so if we could provide the information regarding those parcels that went into the open space plan inventory, that would be a quick comparison to see if there's any
Yeah,
difference.
he may say, oh, wow, you're right. Like I missed this one thing or whatever, right? If something on this got updated, it was.
Are we in fact setting up an ad hoc group? Are you asking Jim?
No, I'm asking, well, that's a great question.
Right.
How best to proceed? That's what I mean, let's finish this
I think he
this
let. I think
item by having
we
our,
could let
clear-
him know
clear
that,
to-dos.
after you left, we had a discussion about the accuracy of your 2019.
Currency, not accuracy. Things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to imply that he made a
That's what I
mistake.
meant. Yeah, just right. That there could be fresh information. And you want access to it or something, or.
Yeah. And he would also be able to get to that map that you were clicking on. So there's those three things really to reconcile together. So if we could ask him to do that and he would be willing to do that, then that's great.
Chris, is that a message you would be willing to carry? to them?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right.
Yeah.
And how do we?
Does somebody want to articulate those pieces so that I'm reflecting or? And you don't have to do it right now if you don't, but I'm glad.
I think you were starting to do it, right?
No.
Oh, I thought you were, I thought you were going over the action.
I have scribbles, but I want to make sure that we're very clear on what, what we're asking, what our tasks
I have
are.
the basic concept in my head.
Right,
But
right.
So the inventory, we have an official name for it that we can give him and a copy of that.
It's a particular annex or appendix of our.
It's in our Google Drive.
So we need to
Entire things in our.
point to
Google Drive.
that and the website that we just saw, we need to point to that
Yeah.
specifically too, right? Is that all we need to do? Because he knows where his stuff is.
Right.
We'll first ask if he's willing to take it on, and if he is, we would just forward him all the documents we have.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll say yes, but
Right.
yeah. no,
So
I'm
that'll be
glad.
step one.
Give it
Well,
another.
yeah.
All right.
We're gonna compare notes with what we have.
Okay, so, and if Sergeant has mentioned ad hoc committee or subcommittee. So on, is that something that we are interested in at this point, or do we want to get answers? Then see about the best way to proceed.
Maybe once we have all the information, we can
I
proceed.
think a little premature.
Don't get- yeah, don't get too
Based
ahead of
on
ourselves.
Coles Hill and.
So it's conceivable if we had responses to these questions by our next meeting, then consider whether to, how best to take it on, whether as a subcommittee or. Great. Okay. Right. So just to be clear, Chris will check with Jim to see where you're willing to look at these. Then we'll coordinate with Eric on the link to what.
Yeah, it's just, it's on the city website. It's the GIS.
Yep. Right.
So it would be our inventory of the open space plan with.
With the city's GIS and just towards highlighting differences between what he had in 2019 and what we have now or currently or as of our report. And
He could
as of
find-
now on the website.
He could find things that are wrong in the other references as well, so.
Okay. Don't think we need a motion to forward these questions, not offering advice to anyone or anything. Queries and clear on the questions to,
Yep, to Alex and Greg and
all right. Is there anything else on this topic that you all want to talk about tonight? This has been a great, thank you for recommending that Jim speak to us. I think it's informative and are you satisfied with these small next steps that we're taking?
Sure.
Okay.
No, as long as we keep moving.
Yeah. Have another.
There's the challenge, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, then I will close this item and hopefully move through the remainder of this rather quickly. Eric, we still have the pickleball update. Is there anything new
Yes, so we met with Larry Maver and the pickleball committee. I don't know, I don't want to bring that up, but they, basically, we need a plan from them. It's like sort of like a feasibility study.
Who's them?
Oh, from the pickleball committee, from Larry and like if we have sort of a plan from them about the location, what it looks like and the parking, kind of some of those details, and then we, DPW in conjunction with Weston and Sampson can kind of find like the permitting pathway where, to see where the membrane is and everything, but they kind of the request is for them, is just to come to us with a proposal, like a concrete proposal. Something around the cost as well, and then we can, a feasibility study, we'll see how much it really is, where really the location can be, et cetera, but we do need like a more concrete proposal, coming from them. But Magnolia Woods would be the spot. There was some kind of confusion whether the lower parking area would be, I thought that was kind of next.
No, I know,
Because-
I was talking to Larry, there was some confusion over.
Right.
who- Different people that at different times,
Mhm.
right, with
Suggesting
DPW,
both, right.
and suggested this, and one person liked this better than that. And but again,
But the proposal would matter for them to have
the
like. the
proposal might just say, the proposal might, I think, might say several options, or
Yeah, right.
what Larry's frustration is he feels that he already did the proposal, but he just didn't have enough cost things in it, right?
Right,
We
right.
had the different sites, we met, we laid it all out there.
Right.
The only thing he really didn't have was, I guess, maybe better estimates,
Mhm.
for costs.
And we were missing any sort of engineering judgment about what we could do
That-
about the liner, and we were asking for a feasibility study for that specific thing, right?
Right.
But
And
it's hard to.
This circle, we just keep
Right.
going around in circles.
But I feel like this one is getting.
The
you
circle's
know,
getting smaller.
It's getting smaller. It is, has more attention to it, but,
Is there a
Yeah.
list of the very specific things they need in their proposal for them to kind of check and complete?
Right.
Like, it's like,
Right.
when we say,
I don't know.
Would we
It's
say-
kind of like,
well,
yeah,
location of what it would look like, we'll check, right? Parking needs, we'll check. Okay, so now what, right? Like,
Yeah, it
they've
is frustrating.
determined it's Magnolia Woods. They've determined it's probably the top, correct?
that's what,
It's one of the two top, it's one of the
Yeah.
two top choices.
Yeah.
It's more, it costs a lot more to do the top than it does the bottom. The Bottom is gonna need parking displacement, the top is gonna need a lot more site work. They
They're
both,
tearing
they
down
both seem to
trees.
be
And when
on
you
that-
say the bottom, are you saying that bottom little field that's
Yeah.
next to like the swamp
No,
now?
parking lot. That mud, the first donuts that people
I would
did.
say, could you pull that up?
Yeah. Yeah, not the. They're right, there were other options that included
there is-
fishermen use soccer, but we wanted, they wanted to try to take those off the table and not have any proposal.
Because
that-
there is a little field, but it doesn't seem like they use it anymore. That's the one you're talking about where the donuts were?
No, it's the
No,
lower parking
It's the
lot,
lower parking lot.
which I'm hoping will stay a parking
Will
lot.
stay a parking, or another parking lot can be
So
created.
is the lower
Right.
parking lot not asphalted? Like we were
It's
talking
not.
about that area?
Yeah,
But it doesn't,
Okay,
this
yeah,
is like when you first come in, right?
but it isn't swamp either.
it borders the
right.
swamp,
If you
yeah,
s-
borders.
Pan out a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
Keep a little more, a little more.
So that's the little field that nobody really uses right next to
This
it.
here.
Yep,
Well,
okay.
no, I mean, that's, at
Are
least
they still using it?
Well, I used it when I did soccer.
I think they're still
How
using it, it's also
recently?
swampy.
It's also swampy.
Right,
But my point was that, that whatever numbers of cars could fit here, there was some, you could cut this wider and make parallel, you could make,
Yep.
angled park. The numbers of spots that you lost here could all be made up through all
Sure.
of here. If that was cheaper than blowing out
But
the,
you know what the city will do? They'll just take the lower parking lot and forget about the parking stuff.
right, so
So-
that's why it was more like.
So I really hope they don't do that.
Right. But then it puts more cost on the pickleball up top because of the site work.
Yeah,
So
and this is all
Okay.
membrane.
everything, we even think the
Well,
lower parking lot was membrane, right?
We don't actually for sure know, but we think it is.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not, it's way down at the bottom. I mean, there wasn't trash down there, was there? I mean, I used to go there when it was an actual dump, but I know where the trash piles really were, so I don't think that was. So I don't know why there'd be a membrane there.
Okay, so Eric, what's the next step? We need
It's sort of waiting for,
the proponents to deliver some numbers, cost numbers.
basically, yeah.
Okay. In the last meeting, in the minutes, there was this, the question of the gate,
Mhm.
whether it's a second gate or a moved gate it's just a matter of having some interior gate that allows people to park off of Western and get in and use the lands,
Right.
In the winter.
in the winter. How do we ensure that that question remains active and in front of whoever is making the decision about this property and about the pickleball?
I thought the gate issue, I thought we were talking about this one down here alone, and actually possibly having it removed. So that, and then there would be like a gate
Put up in there somewhere,
up in
right?
here somewhere.
Right?
Right, that's what you said, something like
Because,
that.
I mean, the issue is when it's closed, people park on Western Ave, which is technically illegal because it's a state highway. So in terms of right now, again, where you put, if there was the gate going up here, you gotta know how far down you drill it. There would be like a lot of kind of site work studies to be done. With the pickleball court being up here, I think that gate could somehow, I mean, this is probably me saying it during some of these meetings, was like somehow that could be added as part of it, but I don't know if the pickleball committee would be thinking about the gate, so I'm not sure if that would
Yeah,
be
They
something
won't be
that would
thinking
come.
about the
No,
gate,
of course not.
no.
Right,
We
so,
were
just that they want to open
We were
have access
proposing, right.
pickleball. That's all they'll care about.
We were proposing that they,
They
Tell
can't
us-
just put up a rock barrier. Like, I don't understand why we need a gate at all. Why
well,
can't they put
because it
some?
has to be able to be open so you get to the upper parking lot.
But if we got rid of the gate and put a rock barrier around the field so people couldn't drive onto them,
That would be equally good.
like, wouldn't that be better? And
It
then we
would.
never need to close
would.
it.
But you know, that wouldn't, there's a lot of space where you'd have to put the
There's a
rows
lot
of
of
rock.
boulders.
yeah, it's a lot.
There's a big.
You have to
a big-
line all,
Yeah.
a lot of boulders.
I mean,
Okay.
so they do that, I mean, the donuts are often done.
Well, the ones down there don't matter.
They
It's,
don't
but
matter.
the latest damage was up at the top.
Yeah, the latest
Which one was
need
it?
up in here.
Sorry, Dan.
No, so we have an update. The question was to get an update. This committee, and it hopes to continue to push for for something to block
Protect
people
the
from
fields,
getting
right.
into the fields, but also something that will allow people to park on the property and use the fields. I can continue, I don't have an appointment right now, but I'm gonna try to get on Mike Hale's agenda and I can make sure that I mention it there. But I'd also like to ensure that it's being paired with the pickleball issue. I think we ought to pursue it independent of pickleball in case that doesn't happen. We also ought to pair it with pickleball in case it does happen, so that perhaps money is coming for pickleball and people are going to want to access that space out of season. This question needs to be resolved. And so I think there's an argument for including resolution of this gate issue, with or without. And so, how do we urge it? Yell at me if you disagree.
No.
We sort of discussed this when you were gone, and we thought that the big obstacle that we're facing is people don't know what the heck about the membrane. They don't know where it is, they don't know what they can do with it. So some sort of study of what we're allowed to do on the membrane would be an answer for both of those issues. And to encourage the city to answer that in some sort of engineering way was what we, do you remember it that way, folks? I mean,
Yeah, Sampson, Weston.
Weston and Sampson.
so that was what we were asking the city to do, to do a feasibility study to tell us what we could do with the membrane. Or around it, or next to it, or.
I think we determined that the membrane would be, the membrane locations would be resolved in the pickleball feasibility study. We could move on from there because they would have to get all that information
Yeah.
prior to doing any work there.
Yeah.
I will bring this up with Mike Hale. We'll stand by for more information from the city on it, and hopefully we'll hear from Larry Neighbor about what they're coming up with.
Do you feel that the pickleball committee knows what they owe to whom? In terms of this proposal? Was that clear? Like, hey, come back with this, this. and this?
Yes, I mean, not the the
Alright.
detailed checklist, no. So maybe that's,
They're just
One
a
thing we can
committee, right? They're just
clarify.
people. They're not gonna have access to too many things except maybe some rough quotes,
mhm.
right? Which I think he has from other pickleball places. So it's already showed me some stuff. So it's in their court to.
Right.
put
So
that stuff
even
together.
that stuff
Okay,
is what's useful for like pushing this along
right.
with DPW and Weston and Sampson. So it's like,
Supplied all that already. That's why it's so like that.
because I mean, at the meeting I was at,
Yeah.
it was kind of assessing whether this is something the city would be interested in. I mean, he was there is a demand for this, right? Like we hear about it a lot, so it is something that is of interest. And I, you know, like with Young Legends, et cetera, you know, they have like kind of an idea of what it is. It's not like we can't. I don't think DPW, Weston and Sampson want. Like, we're not gonna design the court, what it looks like, et cetera, right? So that's kind of what, we need that sort of
Has the
proposal to
committee come
start.
up with any ideas on how they would fund the build?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay.
We need to move on, I think. I think our only action on this is for me to bring it up with Mike Hale and try to continue to insert this, the gate question in these conversations whenever they happen. Anything else? Any other
But that
questions?
would-
Sort of peripherally, I don't know if you were back yet, but there were front page Gloucester Times, people doing donuts in the fields relatively recently. Should we have some sort of response saying, we see this as a problem and this is where we are in the process of doing?
I mean,
Is there anything that
They
we
made
should
it, they
do?
have a solution. They just locked the gates. Solved the problem.
Yeah, you have the
Right?
place
And now
open
no
in the
one can
morning.
use it. They
But it
don't.
was like 4 PM, or wasn't it?
I was literally just there and like I saw the post I was like, I was up there at the same exact time. I cannot believe this happened. So close to me being there and
Yeah.
not seeing it, but I did go to the very top. I stayed
Yeah,
down
yeah,
in
yeah.
the circle, so probably would have caught it if I had just walked.
What's the interest of the committee? Would you like to
I
make a
wanted to
statement?
open the
No,
gates,
would you like
right?
to make a statement on this event?
Let people know that we're thinking about it and we have trying to get something done about it. Most people would go, oh yeah, that's terrible.
To whom would the statement be made?
I would
Through
think a
what
letter
medium?
to the newspaper perhaps.
Okay, would you like to draft that?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, I would send it to you folks for review. Can we review that sort of thing via email? We don't have to do it during a meeting.
we have to respond to Eric.
So
Okay,
you
okay,
guys,
yeah,
I would
okay.
be CC'd
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
you guys direct it to me, yeah.
All right, we have, moving on, scheduling ball fields, expression of a problem statement. Mike Hale has said it isn't a problem. And, or rather, that they're managing the scheduling of ball fields in a successful way. And Mark when I met with Mark, weeks ago, he said, seems that we have not expressed the problem that users and people who desire to use the ball fields, what they encounter. And so it's not the scheduling so much as might be the knowing when the fields are available, and having access to the schedule, kind of an up-to-date schedule. So Like you, as I'm just not watching the clock here. Is that something that we could ask a couple members to take on? Craft an expression of the problem?
Sorry, I'm getting caught up. I would, I mean, I'd be willing to. Yes, I don't know if I could do it before the next meeting, September 20th, but I'm thinking
Okay,
I definitely would participate in that because I did present the problem. And it continues to be a problem, like literally Joe Lucido saying, oh, somebody wants to use your field, you guys have the permit, are you still using the field at that time? Like, that's how we're doing it right now.
yeah.
And then it went out to like the Facebook group of everyone like using the field. Anyone planning on using the field? Oh, no, we're not gonna use it today. Hang on, let me check with my team. No, we're not using it. If that youth group wants it, they, I mean, that's not a system, as far as I'm concerned.
No.
It's just, yeah. I thought you had a pretty good statement, did we not?
I don't know if we put it on paper or just sort of,
I think it came from, in Kate, you had a really good statement on the use of fields to access the fields. I can try to get that out of the minutes.
Adrian, you and I corresponded on that.
It was a blur, hang
Did we
on.
I
never
might
follow
have
it
an
to Mark?
email somewhere on it, but I do remember it was really, it was.
Yeah, and we were like, well, let's follow up and add to this because it was a great
It
start.
was a
but it
great
actually
starting point.
Pretty,
It was
um,
pretty,
I think you said it aloud at a meeting, so we could look at the meeting when you said it, because it was a good summary of the issue.
it's a problem statement with,
there should be fair access to playing fields and other
Yeah.
public outdoor resources and transparency about how to access them. Currently, some community members can reserve these resources while others seem unable to do so. Some community members know how various resources can be reserved while others have no idea despite efforts to gather this information. It needs a little bit refinement, but it's pretty good. I
Okay,
mean,
sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Okay, is that something that I should take to him?
Yeah.
That, I'm
I
happy to
mean,
do that.
yeah, I don't think we need to, there's,
Maybe with a couple of the anecdotes that Adrian has
But I,
mentioned.
but you could provide those, that would be great. Yeah,
Frustrating.
yeah.
I think anybody would understand.
okay,
but the suggestion would be to not lead like I led, because I think that's what, I led the conversation off. And let Mike think that it was just about scheduling. And he answered that there isn't a scheduling problem because I have people that schedule. And Eric, we couldn't get him off of that mindset.
in my experience, with the observer permit, it goes to a black hole. Like, that's all. You
Right.
email,
Yeah.
you leave a voicemail, that person's voicemail.
It's being presented in a way, a different way.
So it's more like we become aware of this problem, community members being able to access and reserve
Right,
public
exactly. Yeah,
resources.
exactly. Lead with a better statement than we did.
I'm just gonna pop back.
okay. So Adrian, can you send me the,
I put it right in the minutes. Is
okay,
that fine, or you want me
Yeah,
to,
no, that's
you
great.
may have been on that initial email anyway.
okay. I,
I think he was.
There
gone.
was, I can tell you,
Anyway, we can find the email.
it was, oh, no, it was just us, okay. No, it actually, because half of the email, and then we kind of veered off because we said we were gonna take that on.
okay,
Well,
Right.
we took it on. All right,
thank you. And I will, try to find him. Get on his calendar and present that. I think failing that, or, in addition to that, seems to be an issue that, council members may be. Access to community resources, fairly. Keep that in mind.
okay.
Right, the semi-annual open space report, you recall that we owe 2 reports a year, April and October. And just wanted to get this out there. I would propose that we'll take 2 minutes now, and if there are any topics that you all are messaging that you all want to see in this report, it's read, it goes to council members, it goes to members to the mayor's office as other members of the department heads. Anything that you all want to see on it. and I will take a crack at it and try to run a draft or two by you before the next meeting.
Would it be as simple as just the things we've been talking about at the last meetings?
If you do a draft, it's easy for us to say,
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
what about this?
So definitely we should include the requests we've made.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah. What's out there that we're still trying to,
Hmm.
Right. So basically, the list of things that are in this last few.
and where we're stuck on certain ones or
Yeah.
what the.
Right. This one should be easier to write as I have done one.
It was well done, the last
Yeah,
one.
we haven't done that much in 6 months, so.
Okay, emerging issues. 10 minutes here, I was gonna say 5 minutes. Adrian, you had something you wanted to mention?
I was bringing up, I just wanted to make sure we discussed the recent vandalism at Magnolia Woods, but I don't know if anyone else is aware of the trails up by Dykes Reservoir that have recently been vandalized, and the mountain bikers that people have said it like very dangerous, like sticking
Oh, the
spikes up
Rambo
in the
spike- yeah,
ground.
Rambo
And
spikes
it's,
and all.
and then someone went and found all the boats, which we know people aren't supposed to be hiding boats, but instead of saying, there's boats up here that need to be removed, they drilled holes and sunk them all in the reservoir. And I guess there was like a ton of vandalism done. And I don't know if this really falls, I mean, it's open space, right? Like there's trails up there. They've been recently really taken care of. And they're better than ever. Like you don't get lost. I've gotten lost up there a few times because there's been rain off trails that I followed and was like, now I'm on the highway, right? But it's really well marked now, and it's like kind of a nice, it's like 5 miles. It's a nice walk. But I mean, they've taken down. I don't know if anyone saw the pictures online. They were posted. Like the Magnolia Mountain Biking Club posted them too. It was absolutely like disgusting. Like someone could easily be killed, like really easily, if not, very seriously injured. So I just didn't know if there was follow-up, like, is anyone, I mean, no one really polices that area. I don't know if they had any leads on who did it, or if they put up, someone suggested trail cams. A lot of people suggested, taking it upon themselves to find, I'm like, please, let's not go there. But I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of it because they're really,
The city watershed, and I'm wondering if you talked to Mike about this and what his suggestions might be on how to better enforce that, because everything will have to go through DPW anyway. I think they're still looking for an environmental engineer. Right, so could be this little gap in coverage because they don't have the environmental engineer who would really protect or oversee city watershed areas, but Mike would be the person to talk to about this, I think.
It's Joe Orange.
This has been discussed by the Cape Ann Trail stewards and identified as a problem. So that is another group.
The sabotage.
Yes, right. People are putting traps at the bottom of difficult hills, particularly for bicyclists, it looks like. But, it's pretty negative.
I'm not sure. I mean, do they think the bicyclists are damaging? Because in my experience, they've actually kind of kept up with the
Well,
trails
that's
and they
been my
make them,
experience too.
they take down the dead trees that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
blocking the trails and they kind
In
of
the
make them
Magnolia Woods,
safer.
they cut trees that fall across the road. They do a lot of trail maintenance out there. I have no complaint about them at all.
So the task from this is for me to bring it up with Mike Hale, and ask, what's to be done.
That's,
Or even are they aware? I'm sure they're
No,
aware of it.
They
Any suggestions?
definitely are aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's some, possible encroached, maybe, I don't know if it's
Okay.
like a court or whatever, but like,
The tree
there's
farm.
city-owned property that has some like encroachment on it near there as
It's
well.
a huge
So,
neighborhood issue. Like this
it's-
certain
Yeah,
property owner keeps taking pieces of city land and,
Oh.
kind of
I think that
utilizing
was
them.
on a private, or that was like where the trustees is, right? Is that what
Yes.
that property is?
Yes,
Yeah.
but he
so-
actually makes it so it's impassable. So even though there's public lands, you can't get to them.
So it may even be in.
And he'll vandalize
illegal,
cars if
so I
they're
don't know.
parked there.
Better known.
I believe,
Supposedly.
I mean,
Enough
yes, it's
people, yeah,
problematic.
he's actually being, I mean, I try not to read comments, right? But most people are suspecting he is the one doing this stuff.
There's no
There's no proof of that. Absolutely not.
All right, so I will ask this at planning meeting, Mike. Any other emerging issues?
Could I revisit that? I think it is very much on the city's radar. So I don't even know if, I mean, I guess you could bring it up with Mike, but,
Ask.
You ask, okay.
What's being done?
Sure.
Is there any police involvement? Is there?
Anything we could do?
Yeah. Okay. Moving towards adjournment, our meeting will be the last Tuesday of September, or the fourth Tuesday of September.
24th?
yeah, that's when we have it reserved,
24,
which can always change.
Yeah,
of course,
fine.
but
5 to 7. Look at us right on time.
So, and the one in October would be on the 29th. Yes,
Is there gonna interview with Halloween?
only if you're like.
That's the
Googling for
31st.
days.
We do have that, reserved for the 29th as well.
Can we dress up like?
You
That
can.
would
We insist that you do
I hope
so.
you do.
Sure, we'll all dress up.
Kind of fun.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you for your patience with me stumbling through this meeting as I try to get my open space brain back on. I sort of cleared out a lot of information on the bike ride.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I would welcome the motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, in favor of adjournment, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes, thank you so much.
Right on time.
Not that I didn't do a great job.
I was quicker. Well, because we. Only because we didn't have as much to talk.